It's a pleasure, Sean. We are really at ground zero of this immigration debate. Let me show viewers at home where the people here in Arizona stand. How many of you support the immigration law? Raise your hands. And how many of you oppose it? Now, nationwide, Sean, it's almost what we have right here. It's 51-39. But in Arizona, it's about 70% who support it. Why? Dan?
We just want to enforce the federal laws, and we want to live in a crime-free area. We don't have a problem with legal immigration, but we just want people to follow the laws like everybody else in this country.
Right now, there are so many Americans out of jobs, and we're letting all these people in here that are taking those jobs. And why are we doing it? The law is the law. Enforce the law. The feds aren't.
Crime happens from either illegal and legal residents of this country. We need to stop it at the border so that can not get the traffic through the guns, the drugs, and all that. I mean, if you stop it at the border, that's starting at the heart of the problem.
So what is so wrong with enforcing the law?
Because things like State Bill 1070 is political grandstanding at the expense of Mexican and Hispanic Americans. And it is wrong. It is absolutely wrong. It is putting these people and taking their liberties away, and it's not right for us to take their liberties away because people are sick of illegal immigration. You think that the liberties are being taken away? What about, how many of you are afraid of crime in this state because of illegal immigration? That has nothing to do, being afraid of crime, illegal immigration has nothing to do with asking someone for their birth certificate after a crime stop.
This does not solve the crime problem in this country. This is just going to create it more.
This is going to create crime. You agree with that?
They're turning this into a race thing, and it doesn't have anything to do with what your race is. It has to do with where you're from. If you're an American and you're a legal resident of this country, you have a right to be here. And if you don't, you need to come in the right way.
I'm sorry, people who are Hispanic Americans, who were born in Arizona, who were born in California, are Americans. They have every right to be here, just like I have a right to be here.
And they have nothing to fear. They're legal.
That is not true. They have to fear when they get stopped by a cop. It is up to him to ask if they are legal citizens of the and to show their birth certificate.
You're Hispanic. You're Hispanic, right?
I feel that this has also caused division amongst people. Besides, the bill isn't necessary to have funded or represented because it is causing division.
Well, illegal is not a race, number one, and Phoenix is now the kidnapping capital of the world. There's a way to do immigration right, and there's a way to do it wrong. It's being done wrong and needs to stop.
It has created a new racial tension against Hispanic people. It's a sad day when a 19-year-old Hispanic girl goes to work and is arrested at McDonald's and held for 13 hours for questioning. You can't say that is not a racial issue and there is no profiling.
Renee, is it a racial issue?
Yeah, and I have to say, I was there when the governor signed the paper, and I was scared to leave.
Why?
Because of the Hispanic folks that were around and acting violent, shooting fingers, saying bad words. This is what I...
Are you scared now because I'm Hispanic and I'm here? Let me pull my weapons from my bag right now. As far as, you know what? The jobs that they say they're taking away Americans' jobs. You know what? They don't take away the jobs from Americans. They're taking the jobs that Americans don't want. I never see any Hispanics standing on the corner. You know what? I never see any Hispanics standing on the corner with the "Will Work for Food" sign, but I do see white standing there. You know, so they're just they're at Home Depot trying to get a job and trying to work somewhere.
The jobs that the Hispanics are filling are dishwashing jobs. Right. Maid service in the hotels. The food service industry would suffer terribly without Hispanics.
This is an insult to the legal Hispanic residents who have gone through the proper channels to get their citizenship legally. I think this is an insult to people who have come here to the country legally.
I think we need to start looking at what kind of aid are we providing them and maybe stop there.
Why don't we just stop the businesses from hiring them? If the jobs weren't there, people wouldn't come.
Are you Hispanic?
Yes.
Do you find this bill is a racist bill?
Yes.
Do you feel you're being discriminated against?
I do.
What do you say when Renee says she's afraid to walk out on the streets after the legislation?
Being Hispanic, I grew up being afraid to do a lot of things because of white people. The way they looked at me, the way they talked to me, I couldn't do a lot of things. I felt racism, but nobody else has felt it, and they're feeling it now. So welcome to our world.
Right. We were taken out of the state capitol in unmarked police cars. That's how afraid we were.
Do you see how? Do you see how this has turned into Hispanic people against us? When the true fact of the matter is, people are illegally coming into this country, and that needs to stop. We need to figure that out on a global level.
I just feel there has to be other ways.
trafficking that needs to be done. It's just a way about getting about to it. We're not saying that let's let everybody come here and take over illegally. We're not saying that. We're just saying how they're going about it.
I mean, there has to be like E-Verify. I mean, there has to be different ways instead of pulling them over like jobs and.
Okay, here's what I got to get out. I'm going to ask you 2 questions by show of hands. How many of you are more afraid today than you were a year ago because of illegal immigration? Raise your hands. How many of you believe that the issue is illegal immigration, not legal immigration? Raise your hands. So there's a message there. First question, this comes from Sean now. Do you realize that the legislation actually discourages, prevents racial profiling? Yes. You realize that? Yes. Why are you nodding your head no?
No, because the policeman is going to stop you because you look like you might be illegal. Who's going to look like they're illegal? Maybe not me because I'm light-skinned, but definitely my parents and my grandparents, not to mention my great-grandparents.
But it is also, but it is specifically prohibited.
Right, but who is going to be asked for their proof of residency? It's not going to be the Canadians here illegally. It's not going to be the English people here illegally. It's going to be the people with dark brown skin who are here legally.
If you get pulled over and you do not have your driver's license, that's when they're going to ask for proof of, do you have a birth certificate? Do you have a green card? Do you have an employment authorization? Don't you think they should? That's not what? It's not in the amendment. It doesn't say you can't do that.
I've been personally pulled over myself, and it wasn't because I was doing anything illegal. It was because I was a Hispanic woman driving a vehicle that was large enough to carry a lot of people, and they felt that it was necessary to search. There was no right to do it.
And go ahead, Sid.
I mean, were you coming across the border at the time?
I was driving to the city.
Especially like Phoenix PD or any of the other local PDs have time to sit and harass people is just ridiculous.
Okay, let me ask you guys a question now. I want a show of hands. Is this the responsibility? Who has failed? The state or the federal government? How many of you believe it's Washington who's failed? Wow. Do you guys got that? Do you got the white shot? Everyone in this room, by the way, everyone hasn't agreed on anything since the Revolutionary War. So, Sean, clearly they understand or they hold Washington accountable for it. Yeah. What else can I ask them for you?
Well, first of all, the president specifically mischaracterized this bill when he said, well, you walk into an ice cream shop with your kid and they're going to be asking for your papers. Frank, there are 42 states that require that you have identification on with you. And when I get pulled over, one of the first things they do is they check and see if there is a warrant for my arrest. They do that for everybody. Go ahead.
Okay, guys, 42 states require identification. What's wrong with Arizona requiring identification?
Nothing's wrong with that. You have to be able to let law enforcement do their job, and you have to be able to identify people so you can identify people that are doing things illegal and what about the law.
And even if you were driving and pulled over, you're still required to carry some kind of documentation, whether it's...
Here's the real problem. We've got 460,000 illegal immigrants in the state of Arizona right now. So let the police do the work. They're only going to stop people that are involved in crimes. Their job is to solve crimes.
In my neighborhood, there's a section where there are day workers. The day workers I see harassed by the police all the time, yet the prostitutes on the other block are never pulled over by the police.
And why is that?
While they're Hispanic, the day workers.
Are you calling the police racist?
Yes, I am.
Who would call the police racist in this room? That, you know, that is a very tough thing to say. I don't know what to say. Sean?
Frank, last question. I want to run very quickly. I know you dialed up this ad. We have an Alabama gubernatorial candidate. His name is Tim Jones. Let's throw to this, and you dialed it, and we'll explain it when we come back.
Yep. I'm Tim James. Why do our politicians make us give driver's license exams in 12 languages? This is Alabama. We speak English. If you want to live here, learn it. We're only giving that test in English if I'm governor. Maybe it's the businessman in me, but we'll save money. And it makes sense. Does it to you?
93 Republicans, 62 Dem. Those are big numbers, Frank.
Sean, of all the ads we've tested, I don't think there's any that have been so controversial and done so well as this one. How many of you agree with that ad that English should be the primary language? Raise your hands. Almost everybody, including, and you're Hispanic. So you agree with that?
Including myself, but you know what? I have a friend who is a United States citizen with a strong Mexican accent. and she's going to be harassed because of that. She's a U.S. citizen. She went through to get her citizenship. So you know what? Her Spanish isn't, her English isn't clear.
Okay.
But she speaks it and she knows it.
I got to go on. All right. Sean, this issue is not going away. It's controversial. You came to the right place here in Phoenix. You got